Hi, and welcome to Good Eating. So, today we're featuring our desserts segment of the show, and we have Ray Bakes. Ray Bakes is gonna bring us some. She's gonna bring us some of her dope caramel pound cake, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, listen, this pound cake. This pound cake.
Slapping.
I'm slapping my mama. I'm cheating on my diet. I'm doing all of that. Okay, so let's get ready. Tell us about it. Tell us about your pound cake, Ray.
Alright, so today I'm going to be making a classic pound cake. A lot of people have different variations about how they make pound cakes, but again, I was taught by my grandmother who taught my mother. She taught me, so it's a generational, recipe. I won't give everything away, but I will say that it's going to be pretty darn good.
It is.
Okay, so first things first, y'all. I like to talk, so feel free to talk to me. But you want to start with all your ingredients being room temp. You don't want to start with any ingredients that are too cold, because if you do, then your cake is not going to come out well. It's actually going to sink instead of it rising the way it should. So we have 3 sticks of room temp butter that we are going to use. Something else that I should tell you to do before you get started is to grease your pan. You have to grease your pan. Even if it's a non-stick pan, you still grease your pan. Everybody is different. Some people might use olive oil. Some people might use cooking spray, things like that. I'm kind of old school. I use butter.
Butter.
I do. Do with the Paula Deen.
Yes. That good
Butter makes everything better.
Butter makes everything better.
Okay? So the crazy thing about butter, pound cakes, or baking in general is that if your butter is too soft, it won't come out right. If it's too firm, it won't come out right. If you say, well, I want to put it in the mic to go ahead and melt it, it's a possibility it won't come out right. Some people add salt to their pound cakes. I don't. I use salted butter. But first things first, we are going to whip this butter. Now the thing about whipping butter is that you don't want to over whip the butter. If you do, then again, it can cause your cake to sink instead of rise the way it should. So because this butter was already at room temp, Chef Tiff can look at it. It definitely is soft. It's whipped. It has a whipped look. So the next thing that you want to go ahead and add is sugar. Okay, you're not going to add any wet ingredients, so to speak, right now, but you're going to add sugar. Yeah. Y'all the quietest audience.
How much sugar is that?
So about how much sugar am I using?
So you want to use about 3 cups of sugar.
So we got 3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of sugar.
Yeah, 3 cups of sugar. Again, this is a classic recipe, so this is not like something that you haven't seen if you looked up a recipe, anything like that. And then the thing that you're going to notice is that your butter is going to want to start to get crumbly, and that's what you want it to look like. You don't want it to be too stiff, anything like that. Always have your spatula next to you so you can go ahead and push it down.
How long, when did you start baking?
I've been baking since I was a kid, right? But I started doing it just because I love to bake. I feel like you bake in what you love. I love people. So a lot of times, if somebody I cared about came to me and say, hey, make me a cake, I say, sure, no problem. It's going to cost you this much money. But it honestly started because I love to bake more than I love to cook. Okay. A lot of people know me for pound cakes, but I do bake cookies, pies, cobblers, all that other kind of stuff. But again, I like to stay in my lane. I have figured out what makes pound cakes work.
She figured out how to make pound cakes work. Listen, okay?
So your mix at this point is crumbly, which again, that's what you want. You want a crumbly mix. Now here is the crazy part about it. If I was to dump all of these eggs into this mix and it has a shiny glaze on it, my eggs are not all the way mixed into my mixture, which again can cause your cake not to act right. Baking is a science. It's going to cause it not to act right. So with that being the case, you have to do it 1 by 1. Low and slow is the way that you do it. You know that the egg is completely beat in when you don't see shininess. If you still see shininess, it is not completely beat in and you need to wait.
That's good fact for the home chef.
Okay. And again, I'm only adding 1 egg in at a time.
How many eggs do you have to on there?
5 eggs.
3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of sugar, 5 eggs. Carmen.
How did you learn that technique? Did you have to, was it trial and error?
Trial and error. When I say that baking really is a science, it truly is a science. I have more failures than I've had successes. And the thing about baking is that you'll get sick of spending money on things that don't turn out well. But then when you have that one that turns out good, you be geeked like, I finally got it right. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so turn that off. So 1 egg is beat in, right? Now the thing that you do need to look for as well, teach y'all like my grandma taught me, is if I push this up, you see how it's caught right here? You need to take that out. And the reason why is because your batter will not be even if you leave it just stuck in there, okay? So if you see it do something like this, especially when you use a standalone blender, you need to push it out, okay? Now, there is a difference between using a standalone blender and using a hand blender. A hand blender, you have more control. A standalone blender, you don't. I brought this expensive KitchenAid, and the first time I made a cake, it was the same recipe. I didn't change anything, didn't do anything crazy, and the cake came out small. Compact and small, and I was like baffled, like why did this happen? Because I didn't control how it was being whipped. The only thing I controlled is how I, you know what I'm saying, turned it up or turned it down. So I personally like hand mixers over standalones, but this helps you if you're not really a fan of baking and you just want something quick, fast, easy, you know, whatever. So yeah, there you go.
We got it home.
Yeah, whip it, baby. So again, this is the part of it that takes patience. That's going to be your best friend during this process. And again, it's one at a time. You don't want to add them all in there and then it not look right. So there's number 2.
Oh no. It's about to drop. It's okay.
So for instance, like that, 2 of them went in at the same time. I just have to make sure that it's completely blended in. I don't see any shininess or anything like that. So again, while it's mixing, you are pushing it down into the bowl to make sure that everything is getting blended the way it needs to.
So, I'm not a baker at all. I'm a chef. I prefer chefing because I like to just throw stuff in at a whim, and clearly, you see she just dropped them 5 eggs individually. Listen, that would never work. I got to drop all 5 at once. So here's my question, right?
Yeah.
Throughout your process, and as you watch your process go, and the different textures of the batter, as it grows, I guess I should say, should we look at the end product being like smooth and velvety, or are we still looking for chunks and lumps? Or
You are looking for chunks and lumps. If you see lumps of flour, lumps of sugar, because you know sometimes your sugar can be in a container and it turns into lumps, you don't want that. So you want to make sure that that's beat in as well. Sometimes it won't blend in if you just use a mixer. You might have to go in by your hand and blend that in. But let's talk about flour.
okay,
Flour is really, really, really important. You can use regular flour. You can use cake flour. It's whatever your preference is, right?
what do you use?
Personally, I use both.
Okay.
I use both, right? But even when I do use both, I sift my flour.
Very important to baking. I am
It
aware
is.
of that.
Does any sift? So that means that you make the flour finer. It's making the flour finer.
So you roll it out?
Nope, not roll it out. It's like
It's actually a machine.
It's like a machine that has like little tiny holes in it. So every time, mine is like a grip. So every time I grip it, it makes it finer and finer and finer. Why do you want your flour to be finer? The finer it is, the fluffier it's going to be. If you use it and let's say you don't sift it, then what's going to end up happening is your cake is going to be very dense, and that's what pound cakes are known for, being dense.
Right.
But my pound cakes are known for being relatively fluffy and moist, and it still has that density too. You know what I mean? So you want that to be the case. So the same amount of cups that you use for your sugar is the same amount of cups that you're going to use for your flour. I already sifted this, which is cool, but you don't want to dump it all in at the same time. Okay, you want to do it gradually, because when you add flour, it's going to get thicker. Okay? So you don't want to just be that person that's like, well, I'm just tired. If you give up too easily, your cake is going to be a whole mess. And then you're going to be mad like, I wasted my time. So learn from my failures. Alright, so here's the thing. You turn around, you have your consistency or whatever the case may be, right? So your consistency should look something like this, okay? You don't want it to be too thick. You don't want it to be too smooth. Too smooth means that it's going to sink. It is not going to rise the way it needs to, or when you test it to make sure that it's baked all the way through, it's going to be gummy. I've gotten used to doing this part by myself. If you have somebody with you, especially if you're a beginner, that's ideal. But they're going to have to turn as you pour, okay? So scrape off the sides, scrape it in. And again, as I'm pushing it out, I don't see any extra anything at the bottom, which is good. So that means that everything is mixed the way it needs to be mixed. Okay? This is the same, like I said, recipe. You can find it. A lot of people have the same recipe, but everybody is different. Alright, so your cake should look something like this, right? You want to kind of twist it so that way it's even all around. If you leave it up like that, it's going to bake up. So, and you want to get as much of the air out as you possibly can. You know what I mean? So, again, you just kind of drop it like that. That helps the air bubbles come up. If you have air bubbles, which you should not if your batter is thick like this. Your batter is right if you still see little peaks. Okay? If you don't see peaks, it's not right. So, there you go. You're going to take this. You're going to already have your oven preheated. What's the preheat? Normally, I like to stay at a 325 on any oven, but again, you have to do it according to what your oven does. You pop it in the oven. After you do that, it will be in there for about an hour and 10 minutes. You come back, you check on it, and then boom. But here's the thing about putting it in the oven. Make sure that nobody is disturbing it. No running, no jumping, no none of that. Because if you do that, your cake can be ruined. So basically, do it old school way. Everybody out my kitchen after you get finished cooking. Right. There you go. Right.
We pulled this beautiful vanilla pound cake out of the oven. And then she about to top it with her secret ingredient. Like, I've had Ray Bake's caramel, y'all. She makes this caramel from scratch herself. It is so good. So let's top this vanilla cake so we can get some slices out to our audience.
Awesome. So, like Chef Tiff said, this is how your cake, depending on your pan, this is how your cake should come out. You have to let your cake rest before you take it out the pan. If you try to rush it, like the skin that's on the outside, I call it skin, but you know, the crust that's on the outside is going to stick to the pan and it's going to rip and make it so we're going to be mad. I've been mad several times. So the way that we're going to plate this, and then Chef Tiff is going to take it over, you're going to take your caramel, you're just going to go over the bottom of the,
come on through.
Okay? You're going to do just like that. You're going to slice into the cake. And again, you're doing this with clean hands. Praise the Lord. Pull it out. Put this on top. And then Chef Tiff is going to do a little drizzle right over the top.
Oh, caramel cake. Oh,
Tiff basing it.
There you go.
Like that.
listen.
And there you go. That is the classic caramel cake. Okay?
Very good.
So, today on Good Eating, we featured Ray Bakes.
Hey.
You can find her on Instagram at I am Ray Nicole. This pound cake is amazing, y'all. Like, we have the vanilla pound cake with the homemade caramel. Cake made from scratch as well. You saw no boxes on here today, right? And so you make sure you guys follow her and reach out to her and make sure you let her know that Eating Good sent you to her and it's been eaten approved.
Hey.
Thank you for coming to see us today, Ray.
No problem. Can't wait to be back with y'all.
Yeah.